going to in the county to come into the city, and the city is getting all that excise tax from their alcohol sales that Ware County would otherwise be benefiting from. I'm just asking the commission to adopt this resolution. Let's put it on a vote in November and just let the good citizens of Ware County decide. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for coming. I think this is something our legal counsel will have to give us some direction on. I know it's something that the people have to vote on. Is that correct?
That's right. And I think his request is if the commission is interested in putting it on the ballot for the voters and having a referendum on it. So it may be something you all, desire to study prior to doing so, or you may have a feeling about it today one way or another. I'm not sure.
May I just say, gentlemen, that it would have to be presented to the Board of Elections, of course. That has to be passed to the Secretary of State for it to be put on the November ballot. So that would have to occur sometime before the end of July, first week of August, from what I understand.
I will say, because of this is a presidential election year, I do know that any special election, such as this would be a special election, has to be called at least 90 days prior to the election. And then there's a certain other action that has to be taken prior to then. So I will say to get it on the November ballot, would be pushing, it would be a very, very tight timeline. So we'd have to look at that immediately if you were interested. But of course, it always could be on a future ballot, even if we did not make that deadline, if the commissioners desired it to be.
Okay, commissioners, what's y'all's pleasure?
I'd be happy to look at it. Somebody present me something that could pass, or some recommendations. And I don't know the timeline, so it'd be up to our attorneys, to me.
Yeah. Yeah, for November, we're pushing the tightrope to get it, if I understand our legal counsel. I use myself, no alcoholic beverages at all, never have. I'll be 75 in October, but I don't think we can deny the right for people to vote to or not to. That's left up to the heart and soul, my dear. And so whatever the commission desires,
Could Jennifer give us a timeline of what needs to be done when, and see if we can meet it?
when can.
Certainly, and I'll be glad to look at what documentation we would need, and can report back to you all on kind of a plan of action for putting it on the ballot.
For November.
Or November. We will look very quickly.
We would have that 90 days, though, correct?
Right. Well,
If it was passed in July.
That's right, and that's just 90 days to issue the call. So prior to that time, we'd have to have all the documents drafted, have the commission approve it, and then have the Board of Elections issue the call. And then sometimes, and we have to talk to Mr. Nelson, our election supervisor now. It depends on, because it's a presidential election, sometimes they have to do the ballot building even prior to the call. And I know that's but it's because of how much time the state needs to build the ballot. But long story short, I've got direction from the commission, and we will do some legwork on it and, see what we need to do.
Okay.
Yes, I would just also like to say, piggyback on what Commissioner Pope said, as far as finding out exactly what we're going to be presenting to the public. And I've always been of the opinion, even when I was on city council, as far as the alcoholic beverage, don't take, but I still think that the people, it's their right to speak, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but then when it comes down to something that's going to be made for the totality of the county, then that's where the county residents, so if you fall against, that's the time to make your voice heard. So I concur with what he said.
I just think it would be extra revenue for the county, certainly.
Oh, yeah, we understand.
Find something
But
to
it
do
left
with
up to us,
that.
it's left up to us to say, okay, in which we verbally told her to get the.
Now, I know on the city referendum, they say that the times to, of course, start at 12:30 if the county wanted to start it at a later time, just so we can get it going and get that money from.
I think that's pretty much what our attorney will probably look at all
you
those
wanna say?
stipulations in there.
Sir, you got anything you wanna say about it?
Yes, sir, somebody, I believe, Mr. County Manager passed this alcohol revenue sheet out, $325,683.52. Is that county tax that we collected, or?
That I believe is, I got it from Mr. Lamb, I believe that's city, is that correct?
Yes,
That's the city tax?
Yes, sir.
I believe in that first year that it passed. Or if you go to the second year, it increased like 24,979 after the referendum passed.
Well, they don't have that figure on here. But, okay, thank you.
And then that shows all their referendums.
Mr. Jimmy, we appreciate you coming, and she's got instructions to research it.
Thank you for your time today.
Yes, sir, thank you for coming. Okay, we got a long agenda tonight. Item 4, item 8, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm gonna ask the county attorney if she would, present the items that we have here, for the renewing of the SPOS.
Mr. Chairman, you all have, 2 documents before you. Well, I guess technically 3. First, we've got a resolution to approve the intergovernmental agreement, and the intergovernmental agreement, which is Exhibit 1 to that resolution. The city has already approved this language in their meeting, and if you'll just reference back to let's see, I don't know if it's printed in here, but there are, Exhibit A has your project list, which is part of that document. So that's the first item on the agenda, and then the second, that's what the city's approved, and you all would need to approve that also if we desire to proceed. The second is just a resolution, calling for the actual election, asking the election superintendent to call for the special election for SPLOST, and this would be put on the November 3rd ballot.
Okay. Okay, Commissioners, any questions?
Yes, Jennifer, on the, on page 6. I know the SPOS tax is supposed to be for what, 24 quarter, would be 6 years, right?
If you have an intergovernmental agreement, yes,
Yeah.
If it's not, then it's what, 5 years?
that's right.
Because on the D here on page 6, it's stipulating here about 7-year period. Say any SPOS proceeds here by the county municipality at the end of the 7-year period.
Yes, sir. So what that is speaking to is if any of the funds remain and have not been spent at that time, there's a variety of reasons that could happen. What that language is referencing, and this is standard language from the ACCG agreement that they put out, is that at that point, the funds would be determined excess funds, and they could be disposed under the statute guiding how those funds are determined. I will say right now, I do believe there's a bill being considered by the legislators as to how excess funds are dealt with, so we'll keep a close eye on that. That may give us guidance in the future on how excess funds are to be spent, but that's what that paragraph is, Commissioner. It's about the excess funds.
Okay, but it says 7-year period, that's why.
Yes, sir. So that's if the funds are still being held after 7 years. So you are correct that if there's an agreement in place, they can be collected for 6 years, but they may not be all spent during that time. So at the end of the collection time, then after an additional 7 years is what that paragraph is referencing. Does that make sense?
There could still be a balance that hasn't been spent.
That's correct.
At the end of 6 years.
That paragraph is not about the collection time, not about the 6-year collection time. It's about how much time you have to spend the funds.
So you have 7 years to spend it?
Before then, we have defined those as excess funds, and then we still can spend them. It just, at that point, they become excess funds, and we talk about how to spend them in that fashion.
So just like right now, this SPOS will end the end of this month.
That's right.
Okay,
So if we don't spend those, I think the same language was in the last agreement. And so if we don't spend those within 7 years, then yes, the city and the county could determine those excess funds and spend them in accordance with that statute. Now, we always have the right to revise this agreement also. And so say there was a joint project that, for some reason just had not been completed. Like on this one, we have listed, let's look for an example here. Our public safety radio communications. Say for some, and I don't envision what this would be, but for some reason we weren't able to complete that in 7 years, the city and the county could then agree, we're just gonna revise the agreement and we will complete that project even after the 7 years.
Is that 7 years from the end of the expiration of the tax?
Yes, sir. So it's actually 13 total, I guess.
Okay, so
Right.
pretty sure within that 7-year period, we can find somewhere to spend that money.
Usually so, it's usually not a problem, unless I have seen it in counties where there was some controversial building of something that someone, they didn't want, and so they just didn't do it, or, something of that sort. But generally, you're able to complete the projects in that time.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, Commissioner, y'all okay with put this on the agenda to vote on?
Yes.
Mr. Manager, place that on the agenda.
And we are actually, I believe, in a called meeting right now, so we can,
Sir?
We can vote now,
And
can't
vote now.
we're in a called meeting right now, so we can
All
vote.
right.
Now, this vote that we're fixing to do, it's not gonna finalize the list or anything, is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
To finalize the list that the proposed is gonna be on the ballot?
yes.
If you look
Yes.
at one page behind it, you'll see where it's
Yes.
been.
In other words, we're not gonna have a meeting behind this one.
Yeah,
This is the
not
call.
about this, no.
Okay, well, then we
We're
did.
gonna have a call, a executive session after this, not about this, so
Okay, so this, whatever we do now, that's it.
that's it.
That's gonna be the final say-so on the list that we're gonna spend money on.
And if you all desire to make changes to that list, I mean, we have, you all have the authority to, but we'll just have to take it back to the city. They would need to have a called meeting to approve any changes, so.
Well, we've done changed. I see it's gonna be changed. Ain't that right?
Yeah, from the original.
That's correct.
Yeah, from the written.
Yeah, the city approved this, last week, I believe it was last Tuesday, I believe.
And
What change did we make?
the biggest change was in the level 2, projects, right?
Yes, sir.
The level 2 projects was one of the big changes, smaller. Up in the very top, level 2 projects.
Yeah,
There's not 4, it's just 2 now.
yeah. Okay,
And Mr., well, let's get a motion first. We'll go for discussion. We have a motion?
Chairman, I move we approve resolution 2020-09, intergovernmental agreement with the city of Waycross for the 2021 special purpose local option sales tax as presented by our attorney.
Okay, we got a motion?
I second the motion.
I got a motion and a second. Now, any further questions? I'd like to, for the matter of the general public, there's all kind of, and I'm gonna call it riffraff out there on Facebook, and I don't have Facebook on my phone. People that don't know what they're talking about, and they won't ask, they just talk. This is a penny we've had since 1986. And this here penny has kept Ware County government from raising our taxes a bunches of times. Believe me, people. And people need to understand that. This penny here, just envision one little copper penny, and you take 45% of that penny, that comes from people outside of Ware County coming in here and spending it. So they have to pay our bills and pave our streets and buy our motor graders and fire trucks and ambulances and patrol cars, both city and county. And that's just the tip of the iceberg there. But 90% of it is for infrastructure. It ain't about, it's been put out there that the county commission give themselves a raise out of it. We can't give ourselves a raise. That's done by the state legislature. And I knew what this job paid whenever I took it 11.5 years ago, and I ain't fixing to ask for no raise. And anybody that that's come in here, I'm gonna stand up there and say, hey, you what it paid whenever you ran and got elected. So, you couldn't raise us out of that, no, that's the point I want clarification. You can't give people raises, you can't raise people's salaries out of the spot spending. Now, hush, now, who wants to talk?
I just wanna say this for the record right here. The list of county projects we've got, building equipment improvements, $5.2 million, road, bridges, equipment, drainage improvement, $12,940,000, public safety facility and equipment, $3,200,000, parks, recreation, facilities, equipment, $1.5 million, information technology, $600,000, courthouse expansion and improvements, $1.2 million. People are not gonna vote this in. They're not gonna do it. And they are sick and tired of building stuff, adding on stuff. That's what I said, that's all I got to say.
There's not I'm gonna say in defense of this, there's not an item on here that can't be explained to anybody that wants to hear. What's that for? Plumb easy to explain. Most people don't know how much time's been put into this. It didn't start last week, we just put figures on a piece of paper and here it is. It don't work that way. This thing's put together with honesty and integrity, looking out for the taxpayers of Waycross and Ware County. It ain't just Ware County, it's Waycross and Ware County. And I'll put it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for me, and, you know, I respect what, you know, Commissioner Bond said about the different things here, but what people have to remember is that these are things that's gonna have to be done eventually, one way or the other. So, I mean, and to me, the splash tax is one of the fairest taxes that we can have if you wanna put it in those, categories for a fair tax, because you're not paying all at once, you know, it's the 1 penny, and all these projects are things that need to be done. And what's gonna happen is, years down the road, okay, if people say, okay, we don't want this and we're gonna vote it down, okay, it may rock on for a while, but after a while, when bridges start needing repair, whenever the courthouse, certain thing we got to do by state law, it's mandated we do it at state courthouse. You got your parks and recreation. So when these things start going lacking, then you're gonna have an upcry, people saying, why aren't y'all doing anything about this? Then all I can refer back to is when we had an opportunity to do it, if we voted the splash tax in. So we at this road right now, we're at this impasse right now. So either, you know, as they say, you pay me now, you pay me later. So I agree, you know, with the chairman, and I can, like I said, respect what Commissioner Barnes said, but eventually these things gonna have to be done. It's just like you driving an automobile or something like that, and you know a certain thing that need to be done to it. And you keep driving, when it starts breaking down, then you really have something to complain about then, or you really gonna have to ante up. So, I think that, like I said, there's been a lot of thought put into this right here, the city and the county, and, these are things that we want to do for the citizens of Waycross and Ware County. And like I said, as far as talking about a raise and all this kind of stuff, I don't even know anything about that. And, but this is just something I think we need to do, and you're gonna have a lot of naysayers out there, people that are saying, hey, we don't need to do this, but this, as the chairman said, this is something that's been in force since '86, so it's not anything new. It's not something that just coming up. We've been doing it since '86, and so that's all I want to say. I think that, you know, it's something that the citizens of Waycross and Ware County really need to consider, because the downside is going to be if we don't vote it in, either we don't do these things, or we have to come up with a tax increase. Now, we're really going to catch some flack behind that. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Don't get me wrong, I'm for the splash tax, 100%. But some of the stuff that's got the price tag on it, I just can't support it.
Mr. Manager, this courthouse expansion, in 1957, they built a courthouse over there. and they ain't been long got it paid for. When's the last payment was made?
It's been years ago.
Probably way back.
It's probably been 20 years,
About 20 years.
probably.
I know we paid for it for years and years and years and years. And, the thing about sales tax is when we moved into this building, it was paid for. Don't owe a dime on it.
See it.
And, that building over there in 57, when we started building on it, we had, one judge and same counties. Now we got 4 judges and the same counties. We haven't grown that much, that's true, but Ware County is still looked at as a key county in the what do they call the thing? The circuit. And so it behooves us to have rooms here where we can have court for hearings, plead cases, and that sort of thing. We could make 4 rooms out of that one big courtroom that we got. We don't need that big courtroom like it is. People don't go to court that much as spectators.
That's right.
And I tell you, it's will we be changing the footprint of the building itself, Mr. Chairman?
No, sir, it's basically, that money's there actually to expand or add to courtroom space.
Inside.
Inside, that's correct.
So,
inside the courthouse.
The outside footprint of the building, there won't be no marble taken down and no marble expanded out.
No additions, basically.
And no addition to the present building. In other words, the outside walls will be the same. Where you're expanding is inside, those 4 one big room can be expanded and used as 4 rooms. We need to change the terminology of that and say for the courtroom, existing courtroom, change the present courtroom to X number of rooms. Because a lot of people think we're fixing to build about another half a building that big, and we're not. And as far as that raise, I didn't take this job for a raise.
I didn't need
And I didn't even know they paid a salary until I got to be a commission. I really thought it was just a kind of an honorarium. But ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, we've got a fine county. We got so much potential here. And every time it seems like that we're led up to the point of really going somewhere, we cut the road and go backwards. And we've got a chance to expand it and go places. And let's go places. This sales tax, it's been paid every penny. Like I said, since '86. It's not a new tax, it's a renewal. The 2-cent transportation tax, local tax, will expire in about another 2 years. It can't come back. We don't have a chance for it to come back. The 2 cent or the 1 cent rather, the 1 cent that you get or paying for regional tax will go out in, I believe it's 10 years, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And we don't have any control over that. Our county voted against it, but we were one county of 18 counties, and the other counties voted for it. So the 4 counties that voted against it, it's mandatory that we pay it too. So, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't all happening in Ware County. There is some things that we're obligated to that we can't back out of. Thank you. Appreciate you. God bless you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carr. I want to say just one other thing. Some of it, if you notice out here on the side of the courthouse, all that external duct work, we pay a nice penny every month. You know why? Because all the air conditioning's gone out on top of the courthouse. How much is the bill gonna be, Mr. Manager? 400,
No, sir, it's, about 350 altogether, I think, somewhere.
$350,000. Now, I'd hate to know, we had to come to the coffers and say, hey, where are we gonna get $350,000 to do that with? That's what this penny does. So, you know, we all need to think long and hard about not supporting this penny. And, with that, I'll call, got a motion and a second. Give it a roll call vote, Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
Commissioner Burke? No? And the chair votes aye. So, got 4 and one no vote. All right, let's see. Item B, Mr. Manager.
This was one that, Jennifer spoke of, is the resolution that calls for the referendum, for the November 3rd election.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I've got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any questions for the manager? Which is self-explanatory, that's been talked about for the last 15 minutes, so. No other questions, I'll begin with a roll call vote, begin with Commissioner Pope. Commissioner Burris. Commissioner Barnes.
Vote.
Commissioner Carter.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, with one no vote. All right. Back to the drawing board again. Okay, that concludes only two, things we had. Item 5, executive session, discuss personnel.
You wanna skip that, and do that at the end, and then handle, I've got a couple of things I wanna mention to bring up.
Yes,
and
go
then we
ahead.
can flip it around.
Yeah, we can do that last.
One of the things, real quickly, is the fire department, Chief Meadows handed out I think it's the rules and regulations. He's still in there. And what I was wanting to try to do was get that to you early to let you take a look at it. We'll have, we need to have another call meeting next week on the budget, just so we can get it done by the end of the year. And I was gonna have that item put on there too, just for you to look at and see if it can get approved, so they can put it in place July 1st.
Okay. Can we have it before July the 2nd? Another call meeting?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we need to have that for, the budget,
Yeah.
FY 21 budget.
Okay. Commissioners, y'all okay with that?
So we just get it to you kind of early to start looking at in hard copy form. The other thing I wanted to bring up, deals with, it kind of ties in with the SPOS, the situation we have with the new property assessments that went out, and some of the feedback we're getting from the public on the issue with, folks' assessment going up and so forth, the values. And I wanted to just point out that, for the record, that, the values can go up all they want to. It's where where the commission sets the millage rate. And I asked Mr. Collins to join, just to kind of help start putting out the information so folks would understand that, those things were done, we have to do those, the new values based on the Department of Revenue's requirements. But the millage rates can be adjusted so that the impact is not what people anticipate.
Thank you for getting this for us.
Yes, sir. So what y'all got in front of y'all, that's y'all's tax bills for 19, and I've ran preliminary numbers for 20. I won't have that final digest until probably gonna be July 8th. If you look at the front of yours, and well, before I even get into each one of y'all's, because there's a couple of y'all, I gotta talk to y'all afterwards. Just so people know, understand what's going on. In the county, if you purchase a home, you file homestead, you actually have a freeze. Your value's frozen for accounting purposes. If you live in the city or you live in the county, you can go file for a school freeze, and you can file for the city freeze if you live in the city. So there's 3 freezes total. And that you have to apply for, when you apply for the county freeze, that's all you apply. When you apply for homestead, it's being frozen then. That does not touch your school or your city freeze. So, so we just want to go with an easy round number. Say the house is $100,000. You purchase that and you file homestead. Your county portion is now frozen at that fair market value is $100,000. Your house can go to $200,000. And now this is, keep in mind, this is house and land, no more than 5 acres. Does not include shops, buildings, outbuildings, pools, anything like that. This is just your land and your house. As long as you don't have anything change, those values don't change. Your frozen value is that the house and the land. So just say that's all you have, no outbuildings. Your taxable value is $40,000. You got standard exemptions, $2,000, so you're at $38,000. That's where you're froze. So that house can go up to $200,000, and you don't change anything. Your exemptions is going to cover that. You're still going to be taxed on the $38,000. Okay. Now, if you since the school freeze and the county freeze, the school freeze and the city freeze came years after the county freeze was put in effect by Judge Boggs. Those values will be different. So, say in I think it was 2007 when Mark Hatfield was representative, got pushed through with the freeze. So, say your value now is $200,000. Then you're going to get frozen. You're going to still get that $2,000 exemption and all that, but you're going to be frozen at $8,000 for the school and for the city. So as much as that goes up, as long as you haven't made any improvements, which means put in new buildings or anything like that, those values, you still have that exemption. Your taxable value is still going to be at those set values. Okay. If you look on the bottom of your tax bills, you'll see the tax bill details. Each one of you has a totally different homestead. Mr. Burton, yours is not homesteaded. That one, I just showed you your house that's in your son-in-law and daughter's name. The way that was going to be affected right now. Like I said, these are going to be preliminary numbers. There's a home thing. We've got the appeal process going on right now. Like I said, that's going to go to July 6th. They expect to have everything to the 8th. The numbers may change some. But if you look at it, on the bottom of it, you're going to see your fair market value down there. And it's going to show you your assessed value and your total exemptions. If you look at 19 and you look at 20 on your county, you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference of your taxable value, even if it went up, of your fair market value, even if it went up, you'll see your exemptions match that. And actually, out of all of y'all's, I believe, Commissioner Barnard and the chairman's actually tax bills went down from last year because of where y'all had y'all's frozen. Yours, you don't have the county, you don't have the school freeze. Right. And you have yours frozen for the city and the school freeze at a much higher value. And I'll talk to you after we finish this, Commissioner Burst, about what you need to do with yours. So, everybody's complaining about the value, with these values going up. They send assessment notices out. On the bottom line, it says estimated tax bill. And they see the tax bills went up $200, $300, $500. Well, they're using, the assessors are using last year's millage rate. Okay, so that's what they have to go on. They don't have the numbers, they don't, with what the millage rate rollback will be. I have to do those forms, put it all in. So what we actually are going to have is, if everything's done right in the pure world, homesteaded, your taxes may change at best $5. Seriously, at best, if everything's done right. And like I said, y'all's actually went down. With the non-homesteaded stuff, that's where you're going to see a difference. But with the millage rate, with the digest, what we got so far, the numbers, and these are not going to be finalized numbers, you know, just with the reassessment of the real property, once we have to take that in, there was a little over $30 million assessed value increase. Okay, so 77 million, I think, was the total assessed, the total fair market value of it. Now there was an increase of businesses coming online, actually paying taxes this year. You got new businesses, but you also got these that has the tax abatements that are now going to start paying. Going off the top of my head, I think the biomass is one first one off the top of my head, so they're going to be paying. We have a reduction of motor vehicles in the actual motor vehicle system ad valorem. But that's going to happen every single year because of TABT. Once it's paid TABT, that's a totally different animal. So those numbers, there was a 1.9 million, which is the numbers I'm going to tell you with these are actual firm numbers. The only one's going to be different is going to be the real personal. But there was a $1.9 million reduction of motor vehicles. We had $671,000 addition of mobile homes, and that's going to be the new mobile homes. Actually, newer mobile homes moved in. That's not the reassessed value of it. You got timber was $13,418 so far. That's what we had increased from the previous years. And then the heavy duty equipment, somebody bought another big truck and raised it up 21,000 from the previous. So those are hard numbers. Those are set. The taxable digest on the real and the personal, when we say other changes, which is not the reassessed value. This is the actual businesses. We're looking at roughly, a little over 17 million of taxable dollars on the real property, a little over 7 million on personal property. So that's their inventory and stuff like that. That was not taxed, but that is now coming online. But see, those numbers are going to change. They're going to be fluid because of those appeal periods. So it's not that everybody's taxes are going to go way up. They're, like I said, they're banking on last year's millage rate because that's what the assessors have to use. So the tax increases will not be as dramatic as what everybody thinks it's going to be. I mean, like I said, you can look at it and see, yours is the one that has no homestead, and I believe it changed to 100.
This is rental property.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, that changed to $100.
Yeah.
And that's it for his, and that's non-tax, that's non-homesteaded, no exemptions, no anything. So, I mean, it's every year, you know, that when assessment notices go out, everybody thinks that it's automatically going to be a huge rise, and there's not.
Our timber tax.
Yep.
Is there a kind of a steady flow of that, or is that?
It's about the same. I mean, we've been averaging anywhere from, well, we had one bad year which we got down to about 9, but we've been looking anywhere from really 10.5. Sometimes we've gotten up to 13,000. What am I looking at? No, this is dollars is $13 million. I'll get my mind right. My mind's running right now, all kinds of stuff. But I mean, what the taxable value, let me say that. We had $10,595,000 of timber. That is the value of the timber that was cut last year. That's because we have to use last year's timber for each year. Okay. So that we had, and then the year before it was $10,581,000. So it's not a whole lot of difference.
What was the tax total last year for 2019 for timber?
You asking me that, and I don't have something I brought up. That's about the total amount of tax, if I remember right, the last figure I saw was around $320,000, and that's county and school. And there's only been one tract that was cut, that was actually in the city, and that was $1,500.
Is there a percentage on timber?
Yeah, they pay that severance tax, they pay the millage rate on 100%. Because of the law that passed when they took timber off the values of the assessments. And so once it's cut, then they have to pay on the fair market value, not the assessed value.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, sir. think there's anything else. But, as far as, and I want to say this too about the SPOS, because I done a quick figure, that it's roughly $7.5 million for that one penny countywide, and 60%, I believe that's a 60-40 split, and y'all's cut's like $4.5 million. So quick math, it's if everything had to be fully funded, it's an additional 6 mills. So the millage rate would go from 15 to like 20 over 29.
The village would go from 15 to 20
If
we didn't have this.
if we didn't have the penny,
Yeah, right.
if you didn't have the penny, but you decided to still fund all your projects, it would be over 21 million. And that's 21, it'll be a little over 21 mills, and that's the net. That's
21 mills.
Bill, right, and right now it's at what?
15, last year's was 15,545, and this year's is gonna go down. I'll say it's going, the millage rate rollback and the numbers shows that it's gonna go down. Now, what you guys do, what y'all decide to do with the millage rate, so, you know, that's gonna be on this body.
Yeah.
You know, if y'all decide y'all wanna do that, or if y'all wanna raise it or whatever, that's y'all's decision. But as far as the numbers on the digest right now, it's gonna roll back. And that's for every single entity, City of Waycross, Ware County, and the school.
That's the purpose of this penny.
Right, so Roger, right now, like I said, we went down this path and said, well, we're gonna still do these projects, we're gonna fund them.
Yes.
Talking about taking the millage rate up to about 21%.
No, it's not 21%.
21
Yeah, a
mills.
little over 21 mills.
Okay, so now, you're really talking about taxes going up on people's property and stuff now.
Most definitely.
I mean, if we went down that road, you know, to do that.
If you went down that road, I'm gonna be mad. You know?
25% increase in the taxes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you're
so
looking.
that's what I'm saying.
So, you know, you're gonna, and a quick way for people to understand what a mill is, so say right now we're at 15 mills, that's 1.5% of your value, of your assessed value. That's what you're looking, that's what you're paying, 1.5%. And, you know, a lot of people think that 1.5% don't sound like much, but then when you put it on paper, that's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but, so, you know, and going back to with this also, and I'll say this as a city resident, you guys would be looking at a much bigger hit if they decided to fully fund that also, because their millage rate would go up. I didn't do theirs, but I'm gonna say their millage rate would probably go up around another 6 mill cities. So, I mean, you'd be looking close to 5%, and then you add the schools, regular, 16 mills, I mean, you're over 50, you're over 5%.
So if you're a city resident, you get hit
You would
twice.
hurt, yeah.
I mean,
You're
double whammy.
be hurting. Definitely be hurting. But that's pretty much it, and if y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I got one on timber tax. Y'all still issuing timber cut permits?
We issue
No,
the
no,
permits, yeah. So the way they do it, they provide us a bond, they provide us a $5,000 bond, irrevocable bond. They'll file the permits with us right now. There was a legislation passed last year that because of counties, different counties are still charging people to get permits, which you can't. And they have different covenants and different easements and rights and stuff like that. So to make it a uniform deal, the Department of Forestry is taking that over. They're gonna be doing a website and stuff like that where they'll start doing the applications. First 18 months, it's gonna be optional. They'll still come through us. And then after that, it's gonna be mandatory. They go through the website and then we'll track it. So once we get the permits, we notify the road department, assessors, and we track it from start to finish.
Roger, you mentioned, about some of the, I guess, businesses that have gotten tax abatements, they'll be coming online, which is, you know, i.e. biomass.
Well, that's one.
Okay, now, my question is this, okay, and I was reading the other day that biomass is getting ready to be acquired, someone that's getting ready to buy them.
Okay.
So would that start a process, or what, do we keep traveling right down the road, okay?
That'll steady they'll steady go on, that's, you know, but I say that, but then again, that's also gonna be the development authority if they go back to try to renegotiate. I mean, we've had one business, and I'm not gonna call the name, that every time we turned around was threatening to leave and kept wanting to go back on, we went back on. And for a while, they was being put back on, and this last time, they would not agree to it, because they've been doing it for 20 years, and their taxes, they're not paying their fair share. You know, an abatement is there to draw employees in, to give them incentives to come in, and then they start being contributing to the county. And, so that's the biggest thing, but they've actually come down and got a set type of deal, and it's been working out really well.
So roughly just a guesstimate, what do you think the tax would be for that facility out there? To the county, what would come to the county coffers?
I haven't even looked at their values, I don't know, I mean, I can go down in a few minutes and pull up what it's gonna be, what I have right now. But it's not gonna be, in the end, it's gonna be a little different. But I would say, because see, they get the worst thing is they put this huge amount of money in, and it's all in this machinery, but it's got a depreciation schedule. So that's where some of that stuff, we actually not gonna get what we should in year one because of the depreciation of the machines. But I would say, if I remember right, I believe they have, I think they're gonna be taxed around on 4 million, but don't hold me to that. I think they're gonna be taxed on 4 million. Down to personal property, that's a totally different animal, because they got a lot of stuff that you would think that's actually personal property that can be moved and stuff that is, so. But I mean, I can look at that, just give you a rough idea.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's several businesses, but you know, that's coming on. I believe, I'm not sure if Simmons is coming on. You know, FedEx, I'll say this, FedEx built that new building and all that land. None of that has a tax abatement on it, so they'll be paying on the full bill and everything. Yeah. So, you know, there's money, there's growth, there's a lot of growth. And then with the reassessment, there's growth there too. But like I said, for your homes, your homesteads, your house, the house itself in 5 acres, that's what your homestead on, and that you're frozen on, if you got, as long as you have a homestead. You know, and I would highly recommend, regardless if you have a homestead, that you get with the assessors first of the year and make sure that you have the right homestead. Because things change as you get older, but it doesn't automatically change in the system. You have to go and reapply. And, you know, we've had issues with, back in 08, you know, when everything crashed, or 07, stuff was high. Things come back down, and the company's starting to slowly come back up. I would highly recommend getting with assessors and find out what values you have frozen, where you have them frozen at, to see what you need to do to get them changed, if you need to change them to help you out.
I know in 2008, I think that's what you mentioned, we had a lot of serious inequities, and it cost the taxpayers $22,000. Cause I just come in office. And the manager broke me the sad news, we gotta pay $22,000 something to $800 to the state revenue department because
that was actually 2006.
8 or
2005 or 2006.
oh,
I think it was 6.
Because I had just came on, I was just being appointed to the Board of Assessors, and we was going through, and there was some inequities there, and they had to have, everything had to be corrected by 2010. And, you know, it got corrected, but then there was some stuff that was close that had to be corrected by 14, which was, and that's the whole thing too, that, you know, people, there's a misunderstanding that the assessors, and I'm telling you, I was on the Board of Assessors, and I used to hear it all the time, that the Board of Commissioners are telling the assessors, we need more money, and the assessors are telling appraisers, you gotta go. And that's not the way this works. That is not the way it works. I mean, y'all could tell them we need this all day long, but that's a separate board, and they're there to make sure everything's done, everybody's treated fair and equal. And that's what that board is set up to do. is to act as a buffer between this board and that department, so everybody's treated fair. So there has been a lot of mystery, and that's what, with this one, there was a Department of Audits was going through and looking, and the ratios had to come up. And there were certain areas that had to be up in the residential on because the sales, everybody can say, well, these sales are not happening, they are. The houses are not staying on the market long at all now. I talked to several realtors and they said, you know, it's been, with the ones they've been putting on, they put on the market, and they said within 30 days, they're gone. And these people are paying a lot more money than what it was back in, I mean, it's just like it was before 08. And that's a fact. I've seen a house, and that's like, there's no way. This house, the fair market value on the accessory website was $8,000. It sold for $70,000.
So they gonna pay that?
And that's just one, and I said, there is no way, but there is a pile of them going like people are snatching them up.
Are they gonna pay taxes on 70,000?
Yeah.
Send that fool to my house.
So we've been,
I mean, but the thing is, and a lot of people still don't understand too, they think that, you know, most of these people, Ware County, we're gaining population. Now, whether or not it shows in that census, I'm telling you, the out-of-state titles that I've been having to do is unreal. People are moving in here. It's just, as long as we can get them to do the census to show, you know, the growth. But, you know, most of these people are not, everybody's not still leaving, going out to counties. There's a lot of people coming in. I have to send in every week, I send in to the Department of Revenue titles. And I'm gonna tell you right, this COVID-19 stuff, that when they got these things, there's a lot of vehicles been bought. But a lot of taxes have been paid, so y'all been benefiting off that. But I send a box, priority boxes this big, stacked full, it's completely full of titles, every single week. Every week. And that is no joke. So, that's a good thing. That's a lot of tax money, that's top tax money, that's a lot of tax money. And I figured it'd start drying off, and it's not. If you ride around, you see all these drive-out tags and temporary tags everywhere. They got theirs at Davies or Walker Jones or Woody or wherever.
and they sell it.
Yeah, they got it at Bobby Joe's parking lot over here, you know, I mean, there's a pile of them everywhere. And, so there's a lot of growth going on here. It's just, you know, you got a lot of people still got this mind that, and I'm gonna say, you know, I was in the Navy, I traveled the world, come back, and when I came back, people were still thinking Waycross was like Patterson, back when they had the flashing light. And I'm like, man, it ain't never gonna be like that. You know, we gotta face it, we're growing, and I was actually talking to somebody with the Department of Census. It was, I'll say it was in December. They came out and was talking to us, who was at a road club meeting, and they said it's estimated by 2020, not 2020, 2030, that the population of Waycross and Ware County will be over 50,000. That Waycross, they said Waycross, Brunswick, Valdosta would all be considered a metropolitan area. They said they expect that much growth. And that's what's trending. So, like I said, if you get these people, you gotta get these people to finish doing these census, they can still do it.
That's more people.
It's more funding, you get more funding, but I'm just saying, it's
More funding too.
you know,
Yeah,
you're gonna
but-
leave here and go get some meeting on a creek, takes you 20 minutes just to get across the railroad tracks. So, you know, they have traffic.
If our census was properly done, we would have much more federal funds coming in.
Yeah.
And state funds.
In all honesty, I really think just by dealing with the titles and everything I've been dealing with, I would estimate that we actually have right around 40,000 people in the county.
Yeah.
That would be my estimate, but, you know.
Yeah. When I was going to the refresher courses up there, or training courses for commissioner, they brought up the subject of abatement. And, they said it was illegal.
Who said it was illegal?
That guy was doing the instruction. And,
He went-
is abatement illegal or is it illegal
No.
based on a
No,
case
no,
by
no.
case basis?
Okay, so, no, so, the development authority, our development authority is one of the only, there's only a few constitutional, established development authorities. And they have the authority to abate taxes, and they do it in a way to, like I said, a draw. They can. Okay, so now, the point is, with them, they can do a tax agreement with them. Now, when it comes to abating taxes for county commission, you guys can't do that. You can't, if I come up here and I say, I want y'all to waive all my taxes, my county taxes, there's no statute in the law that allows for you guys to do that.
That's right.
None.
Yeah.
It does have one where it says, it offers a credit that y'all can say, well, you know what, we're not gonna give you your money back, but we can credit your account, which is a nightmare for us. Because I don't even know how you would credit somebody's account, because if I don't have a tax bill for next year, I can't credit your account. So that money have to sit somewhere else, and if it's in the interest, it's not gonna go in the interest bearing account, because then I gotta track that interest down and make sure that person gets that interest. But as a commission body, you cannot waive taxes. We've looked at that different scenario. We had somebody come up about getting a property for a church, and they wanted the county to waive their taxes, and there's just no statute allows that. I'm not a lawyer, but I do know that for a fact.
Well,
Am I correct, county attorney?
that was brought up by a naysayer on the sales tax, and I told him we don't have any authority to abate taxes.
No, sir. No, sir. Now, what you do have the authority, when it comes to property taxes, and, you know, when I'm looking at millage rate, I do the rollback. So the millage rate rollback tells me what the millage rate should be to collect the same amount of taxes as the previous year, not including the actual real growth of stuff that wasn't here. So anything above that millage rate that y'all set, say right now it's 15,545, and it's supposed to roll back to 15.2. If y'all decide, no, we're gonna keep it at 15.545, that's considered a tax increase. So then you gotta hold 3 different meetings, you gotta be open to the public, and you gotta explain to them, and it's gotta be in the paper, there's all kinds of stuff, why you wanna do a tax increase. Now you can, if it does say with millage rate rollback says 15.3 or 15.2, and y'all say, you know what, let's roll this back to 14.5. You can most certainly do that. You can take it down. You just can't take it up without having 3 special meetings. You can take it down with 1 meeting. So, you know. If y'all-
But that's a one-shot deal.
Yeah, that's every year. I mean, that's your
Every year.
millage, that's when you set the millage rate.
Right.
So, like I said, I give you what, this is the millage rate, this is what the maximum you can have without a tax increase. And then y'all decide whether or not, if it's gonna meet the budget, you know, with the amount of taxes or not.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Do the railroads still file an appeal every year?
Yeah, you know, they're gonna file it.
How many years they got behind now?
No,
No.
no, their appeal, they actually go ahead and pay. I send them we can send them an 85% bill. We send it to them, they go ahead and pay it. And then when they file an appeal, it's usually a lot higher than what they appeal. So, you know, make a bigger difference, yeah. So, but they did, a couple of years back, right after they had that last big major takeover, they tore down a bunch of buildings out there that they weren't using. So there was a lot of stuff that was taken down, so it dropped down, but they're still paying around $2.8 million a year.
How much?
2.8 million in taxes.
$2.8 million?
Yes, sir.
CSX pays Ware County?
That's property taxes. Now, that's not including the, railroad cars. That's another 255, I believe they got, that come.
We need to keep them here in our community.
And now, and like I said, at 2.8, that goes to all 3 entities. That's a total, that goes to all 3 entities. But, yeah, they still appeal every year. Bell South does. Almost all of the public utilities will. But, you know, they still pay. They don't like it, but they still pay. Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Appreciate you coming,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tax Commissioner, you done a good job, we appreciate you, appreciate the job you do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Minister.
That's it,
That's it, that's all you have, all right. All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session
So moved.
to discuss personnel. Okay, I got a motion. Sir. Got a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we'll go to the room, we'll be back directly. Thank all of you for coming.